Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my very special Thanksgiving in Quarantine menu series. I know, I think that we just need to do things a little bit different this year. We typically have anywhere from 20 to 25 people sitting outside. We make a big feast, we have friends, we have family, and it's so much fun. And this year, we're gonna be the four of us. For this Thanksgiving menu that is going to focus on small quantities. So thanks to the poll that we did, it looks like the majority of you guys are only having about 4 people for dinner. So I figure we'll do quantities for 6. That way you get to have a little bit of leftovers, and they're gonna be budget friendly because I'm sensitive to the fact that a lot of you may be out of work right now. And so I wanted to have a menu that wasn't going to break the bank. And they're gonna be easy because let's face it, we have all been home for the last 7 months cooking and cleaning. So I didn't wanna have a menu that was gonna be more cooking and cleaning. I wanted to have it be as easy as possible. I wanted to show you how to make a fantastic cocktail nibble in the form of my cheddar cheese coins. First thing you want to do in the bowl of a food processor is add 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, and then we're also going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then for a little kick you want to add a few shakes of cayenne pepper. Okay, then you want to put the top on and just give it a pulse to combine all the ingredients. Then once everything is combined, you're going to add a 1/4 cup of butter and pulse as you go. You're gonna remove the top and add a 1/2 cup of cheddar cheese that's been shredded. If you have a choice at the store between mild or sharp cheddar, get the sharp cheddar because you'll just get more flavor that way. Pulse until it's really, really finely combined. So you don't want any shredded cheese in it. It should just, again, look like a course meal. Then we're gonna add 1 egg yolk. Then you're just gonna pulse this up, and it does take a few minutes or so because we need that butter and the cheese and the egg to combine just until it's nice and crumbly and the crumb sticks together. So here's the texture you wanna go for. See how it's really crumbly, but if I pinch it with my fingers, it sticks together? That's what you want. Okay, now we are going to just form this first into like a rough log, okay? And just keep pressing it together. As you're turning it into a log, you can kind of roll it around and get the excess crumbs. Resist the temptation to add water to this because then you're gonna lose that melt in your mouth quality, which makes these so delicious. So don't worry, between the butter and the cheese and the egg yolk, it'll totally stick together. Then once you have a rough little log like this, kind of stamp it on the bottom like that, just so that you can get flat edges and equal edges of the circle. So you're really looking for a 1-inch diameter log. You just don't want to roll too much because it is a crumbly dough. We're looking for like a 4-inch log. We are going to then wrap this up in some parchment paper. And you can totally do this the day before. You could do it several days before, in fact. You can roll it up. It does need to chill for at least an hour. So if you were making these right away, make sure you factor that in. And then just give it a twist on both sides. Kind of like cookie dough. And while you're at it, why not make another log for Christmas? And you could pop that in the freezer. I would probably, in that case, wrap it in parchment paper and foil just so it doesn't get freezer burn, and you could leave it in your freezer for up to a month. And then to bake, we are gonna unwrap these from the parchment paper. See, and we have our beautiful log here. And then you just wanna slice it about 1/4 inch thick. So you should get about 16 slices. Place them on a baking sheet that's been lined with parchment paper. If you're cooking for 4 or 5 people, this is plenty because these are really rich. So 2 to 3 per person probably does the trick. But if you wanted a few other appetizers to round out the mix, I will link to a video below of my 3 easy holiday appetizers from last year. Any of those would be great with these. And then you are gonna bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. I give you that range because depending upon how long you refrigerated the dough for, they could take either less or more time. Okay, and when they come out of the oven, they'll look like this. They'll be set in the center and golden brown around the edges. And it is so hard to not just grab one and pop it in your mouth. And then once they have completely cooled, you can go ahead and just put them in a container and keep them on your countertop. Because they're such a simple appetizer, I like to put them in something fancy, like one of these silver-plated candy dishes. These are actually my grandmother's, but I have seen them on Etsy, and I've also seen them in a lot of vintage stores as well. I really like to serve appetizers in them because I think it takes something that's really basic, like these cheese coins, and elevates the whole experience. And serve them with either a little glass of port is delicious, or a glass of red wine, white wine, whatever your drink of choice might be. Now what is going to make this turkey dinner so easy is we are going to roast everything except for the stuffing on a sheet pan. And then you can set it and forget it, which allows you time to visit with your family, have a glass of wine, and some cocktail nibbles. So the first thing we want to do is create our garlic herb butter that's going to go under the skin of our turkey. So in this picture I have 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and then to that I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt, a little freshly cracked pepper, and 2 garlic cloves. So now I have about a tablespoon of chopped rosemary. In it goes. There, and that's all we have to do for our delicious garlic rosemary butter. All right, let's talk turkey now. So I have got a double breast turkey breast. So the way that you find this in the market, it'll probably say turkey breast with ribs. That means it actually has the bone in it. I like the double breast if you're going for 3 people to 6 people. Now, if you're cooking for 1 or 2, then I would say buy the split breast and just buy 1. So we want to position our turkey in the center, and then you also want to make sure that your butter has been cooled so that we're not going to actually start to cook the turkey before we're ready. And then if you've never done this before, don't be squeamish. This is part of being anointed as the Thanksgiving cook. You really want to get in there under the skin, and you'll see there's a pocket. See that pocket? That actually needs to be loosened either with your fingertips or a spoon, because the pocket is where we are going to put our delicious herb butter. So in it goes. And don't worry if it goes all over the turkey or all over the pan. That actually is totally fine. It is just going to add more flavor everywhere it goes. And then see, you can take the skin and kind of push out your spoon and then massage all that delicious garlic butter inside. And the other thing you want to do to get a nice crispy skin is just drizzle a little bit of olive oil on top and then brush your turkey with the olive oil. And this will create a really nice crispy skin that won't burn. And then you also can add a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt. Okay, so now we are going to fill in both sides with the vegetables. And when thinking about what were the most cost-effective vegetables, I come back to my 2 favorites, potatoes and carrots. They are the cheapest vegetables out there. But not to worry, we're going to gussy them up for this special occasion and make them look totally elegant and fabulous. Okay, so first for the potatoes. I have some Dutch baby potatoes here, but we're going to do something extra special to them. We're going to create little slits to create mini Hasselback potatoes, which nothing screams holiday more like a Hasselback potato, right? And you want to slice so that you're doing like maybe 1/8 of an inch incisions. The one thing you want to do is just make sure you don't cut all the way through when you're making your slices. These incisions will open up, which will be really delicious. The only other thing we want to do to them at this stage is just drizzle with a little bit of olive oil. This is what's going to help the potato skin get really nice and crispy as it roasts. And then you can also add a little bit of salt and pepper on top. So how easy was that? 1 side dish done. Now, if you're cooking for 1, you could just add 1 potato. You could add 2 potato. Really just add however many you think you're going to need per person, knowing that you can get at least 6, maybe 7 or 8 on the tray. Okay, so now we're going to add the carrots. So you can really up your game a little bit by looking for what they call rainbow carrots. So rainbow carrots look like this. They come in different colors. The ones I have here are orange, yellow, and like a white. It almost looks like a parsnip. I think you want to factor in like, I don't know, 4 to 5 carrots per person. I just basically peeled them, chopped off the tops. And if the thickness of the carrot was bigger than, say, a nickel, then I would cut it in half like this. If they're smaller than a nickel, more like a dime, then I would just leave them whole like that. One thing we are going to do is glaze our carrots with a little bit of maple syrup. So in a large bowl, we're going to add a tablespoon of olive oil, a tablespoon of maple syrup, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. So I have about a tablespoon of thyme going in, and that's just going to be a really lovely counterbalance to the sweetness of the carrots, to have a little bit of something savory like the thyme. Okay, then we're going to toss our carrots in, and then with some tongs, you can just give them a toss. Okay, now we're going to go back to our tray here, and we're going to put this on the other side. And look, we just made a turkey and 2 side dishes in like a matter of minutes. Then we're going to place this tray in a 375-degree Fahrenheit oven for 1 hour and 30 minutes. But really the best way to know when your turkey is done is with a meat thermometer. I like to take turkey out at about 160, 162 degrees Fahrenheit, let it rest for 15 minutes covered in foil, and then it will come up to the proper temperature, which should be 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, let's talk about cranberry sauce. So normally I am a homemade, by scratch cranberry sauce person, especially if I'm having a big crowd of 20 plus people. But I get that this year, with only 4 of us, I might not go down that road. So I wanted to show you how you can make canned cranberry sauce taste a little bit more gourmet and homemade. When you take it out of the can, don't be alarmed, because it's gonna look like that. But that's okay, it's not gonna stay like that. When you begin to press it down with a fork, you'll see some of the whole cranberries. Okay, so now what we wanna do is just peel some orange into our cranberry sauce. So I'm using just a mandarin because you don't probably wanna waste a whole orange because we don't need very much. So I would do probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 peels. And you can do this the day before, and in fact, it's even better the day before because then all of these flavors will marry. Then you can go ahead and cut this little mandarin in half and add the juice as well. Then you want to add 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves. That's going to give it a delicious warming flavor. And then the other thing I like to add is some fresh ginger. And you're looking for anywhere between 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon. I tend to go the full teaspoon just because I think it adds so much flavor to the cranberry sauce with the orange. It's such a great flavor combination. And then to heighten all these flavors, we're also just gonna add a little bit of salt. There, and that's all you have to do. And then you can stir this all together and no one will know the difference. Now, your turkey dinner would be perfectly lovely with just the carrots and the potatoes and the turkey. But if you want to kick it up a notch, I say add the stuffing. I don't know, I'm a real stuffing person at Thanksgiving. It's a bit of a deal breaker if I don't have the stuffing. And the nice thing about this stuffing recipe is we are going to be making it in a muffin tin. The muffin tin also slides in really easily with the turkey on the lower rack, so it makes cooking this whole meal together super simple. Okay, so for the stuffing, we're going to make this real easy and work with pre-sliced sourdough bread. Cut it into small little chunks. So tell me, what is your deal breaker at Thanksgiving? Is it the stuffing? Is it the gravy? Is it the pumpkin pie? It's funny, every family has their sort of deal breaking moment where if it's not on the table, people get upset, they get mad. One year, I don't know what my parents were thinking, but they actually served a ham for Thanksgiving. Oh, did my parents hear about it? Nobody wanted the ham. It usually only happens once. Now, another thing we want to do is actually pop these bread cubes in the oven just for 10 minutes at 350 degrees. And what that will do is dry out the bread to make a better stuffing. Because if we just worked with this the way it is, we would end up with like a bread ball. You really need dried out bread to retain its shape. Then for the vegetables for your stuffing, you're going to melt some butter in a pan. Then you're going to add 1/2 cup of white onion, 1/2 cup of diced celery, and 1/2 cup of diced carrots. Then you can saute those up until they're nice and fragrant. Season with salt and pepper. And then you're gonna add a tablespoon of fresh sage and fresh thyme and 2 tablespoons of a dry white wine, like a Chardonnay. Okay, now to bind our stuffing together in a large bowl, we're going to add 2 eggs and 2 cups of chicken broth. And this is gonna help prevent our stuffing from being too dry inside. It'll become more soft and sort of almost custardy inside. Then we're gonna add our dried out bread cubes so they can go right on top. We wanna put the bread cubes in first so that we can stir them around and make sure that they soak up all of that chicken broth and the egg. And then we can add our delicious sauteed veggies that we just cooked. I would make sure they're a little bit cooled just so that you don't cook that egg. So if this is like the basic stuffing recipe, you really can add 2 to 3 different mix-ins that you like. For me, that would be 2 tablespoons of dried cranberries. And then I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of chopped pecans. And then I also like to add 2 tablespoons of diced apple, skins and all. And now we can put it in our muffin tin. So I'm going to be using a jumbo muffin tin just because I find that the serving size is really nice. If you didn't have a jumbo tin, you could also do this in a 12-cup tin and maybe give everybody 2. But you do want to spray it first with a little bit of baking spray, just like that, just so that they don't stick. Okay, and then all you have to do is fill up your muffin tin with your stuffing. And probably about 2 scoops per muffin is what it'll take. I don't like to pack it down too much because I think the lighter the stuffing, the lighter your stuffing will actually be. It also will preserve the bread cubes so that you'll get some nice crispiness on top. Then if you pack it in, you may lose some of that definition. And then the final step is just to spray each one with a little bit of olive oil. And this will assure you'll get that really beautiful golden brown crispy top. Now, if you were making this a day ahead, I would just cover this with foil and pop it in your fridge. And then about 40 minutes before your turkey is ready, go ahead and put it down in the bottom rack. Move the turkey pan a little bit to the right so that it has some more space so that he can get down in through it. So after the stuffing goes in, then you can get your garlic herb butter ready for the potatoes. Now, you don't have to do this step. I know we've used a lot of butter and calories so far, but this really does set them over the edge. Okay, so I have some melted butter here that I'm just going to put in to a little Pyrex pitcher. See, it doesn't take much because those potatoes are so small. And then you're going to add a teaspoon of the fresh sage. You could use thyme or rosemary if you prefer that. And then we're also going to add 1 clove of garlic. And then we're just going to mix this up with a pastry brush. And every so often, as you're checking doneness of your turkey, then you can go in there and just brush the tops of the potatoes. And you'll see the butter and the garlic and the herbs will just seep down into those slices of the potato. And it is so delicious. While your turkey is resting, you can keep your vegetables warm by placing them in the oven with the stuffing. Then to carve a bird like this, the simplest thing to do is just to cut it down the breastbone and then cut along the side. This will release the breast meat and allow you to cut nice slices. Now, as your turkey is roasting, you'll notice a beautiful pan sauce will develop. You can use that to baste the turkey with, or you can also reserve it to drizzle it on top of the turkey once it's done. And now it is time for some homemade bread. If you've never made homemade focaccia, you are in for a treat. It uses basic ingredients, it's affordable, and you can make a small batch of it. And making the small batch will still provide you with some leftovers to make a fantastic Thanksgiving leftover sandwich the next day with your leftover turkey. Okay, so the first step is to get our yeast going. So in this picture, I have a 1 3/4 cups of warm water. Now the temperature of the water is important. It needs to be anywhere from 110 degrees Fahrenheit to about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's too cold, the yeast won't activate, and if it's too hot, you can actually kill the yeast. So you want to be somewhere around that range. And it looks like I'm at about 112, so we're good to go. Then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar, and the sugar is important because this is what is going to feed the yeast. So yeast likes to feed on things like sugar, or you could even use honey as well. And then we are going to add a full packet of active dry yeast. Here in the States, we get them in little packets. If you're outside of the States, it's 7 grams. And then you just want to stir this up, and you'll see it'll start activating right away. It'll turn cloudy, and then over time that cloudiness will start to turn into foaminess. Then you want to get out a large bowl, and you're going to add 3 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. And then we're also going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. Then you can just stir that up, and then we are ready for our yeast mixture. So you can see how foamy it is right now, and I am just going to pour that in there. And then you can use a dough whisk or you can use a wooden spoon. Go ahead and just combine the liquid with the flour, and then just continue to mix it together until it forms a nice dough ball. Then you want to get a good amount of flour on your board, about a tablespoon or so, like that. And then take your dough ball and kind of knead it around in the bowl just to make it easier to handle and so it doesn't stick too much on your board. And then go ahead and just knead it for a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes should do the trick, making sure that you're getting enough flour. Now, the next thing we want to do is take a cleaned out bowl and then add about a tablespoon of olive oil in the bottom, and go in with the olive oil and kind of grease the bowl with your hands, just to make sure that when we put our dough in here, it's not going to stick. And then another thing I like to do is just kind of bathe it in the olive oil. You'll find that focaccia bread really needs a lot of olive oil in different stages, just to really make sure that you're locking in the flavor. This looks good. Then all we have to do is cover it with a dish towel and put it in a sunny place to rise for 1 hour. And you will see just after an hour's time, you will have the most beautiful, lovely risen dough, just like this. It should really triple in volume. Okay, so I think the best pan for something like this would be a square brownie pan. If you can get one that has a removable bottom like this, it's even better, because we are going to be putting our caramelized shallots on top of this bread. And if you were to flip it over upside down, some of those shallots might actually fall off. You can put them back on again, so if it's all you have, it's okay. Or another thing you could do would be a cheesecake pan. So because it has a spring form release, that would also preserve your shallots as well. Then you want to grease the bottom of your pan with some olive oil. You want a good amount, about a tablespoon or so, because this is going to also help the bottom get really nice and crispy. And then I also like to use a pastry brush to make sure that it's being distributed into all the corners. Then you want to make sure that you flour your board. I put a lot of flour down just because the olive oil can make the dough pretty sticky. And then you can just plop it right out. There, just like that. You can put a little bit more flour, just a dusting on the top. Make sure your hands are nice and floured, and then give it a good knead for about 3 to 4 minutes or so. You just want to make sure that you have a really nice, elastic, soft dough ball. Then at this stage, get out your rolling pin and just sort of flatten it out. It doesn't need to be perfect because we're actually just going to press it into our tin, but it'll just help you get kind of a rough square shape. Something like that. Okay, now back to our pan that we have oiled. We are all ready to go. We're just gonna plop it in just like that. And then go ahead and just press it down. You wanna make sure that it's traveling into the corners here. Okay, now we are ready for our second rising, but not to worry, this is only gonna take about 20 minutes. And it times out perfectly because during that time, that's when you'll make your caramelized shallots. Now, if you wanted to, you could totally cook the shallots the day before and then just transfer them to a bowl and pop them in the fridge. Then they would be all ready to go right before you bake your focaccia. Okay, so for our shallots, you're going to want at least a cup's worth of thinly sliced shallots. So something like this, almost like paper thin. And this will create a really nice thin sliced shallot, which will caramelize beautifully and look really pretty once it's on top of our focaccia bread. So this time of year, I love cooking with fresh thyme. And the flavor combination of fresh thyme and caramelized shallots just cannot be beat. Then we are going to add a tablespoon of olive oil in a skillet. And then you can go ahead and add your shallots, give them a shake, and start the cooking. And then you're gonna add a little salt and pepper just to taste. Then at this stage, I really love to use a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Now, if you don't have it on hand, you can totally skip it because it can be expensive, but if you have it sitting in the cabinet, now would be a good time to use it. So we're gonna do about a ½ teaspoon. Then go ahead and give that a stir. And see, it gives them a beautiful color too, I think. So then at this stage, what I like to do is add maybe half the amount of the thyme just to give these shallots a little bit more flavor as well, and then save the other half for on top of the focaccia. Okay, these look good. Now, we want these to cool down because we don't want to put these hot shallots on our rising dough. We want to make sure that they're at like room temperature. So now that our dough has been rising in our pan, we can lift this up, and you can see it'll be nice and puffy. So the next thing we want to do is just with our hands, go in and make little indentations in the dough. And these are these little indentations that are so associated with focaccia. You do need to get in there and really stick your fingers in because it will kind of rise up a little bit just to get the right indentation. Kind of like this. And then the other thing I like to add is a good pinch of flaky sea salt just to put it on the top, and it'll also sort of fall down into those little crevices just to give a nice salty crunch to the top of our focaccia bread. All right, then you can go ahead and just sprinkle on this delicious shallot mixture all over the top. Then we can add the rest of our thyme. There, it should look like this, all ready for the oven. Then we are gonna place this in a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for 25 minutes. But at the 20-minute mark, you wanna go in there with a little pastry brush and some olive oil and just brush the top of it. That will help it get golden brown and a little bit shiny, as well as just put additional flavor into this bread. Okay, I think the best way to slice this is with a bread knife, and we're gonna get 9 slices out of it. Basically cut it like brownies. Now you have 2 ways to go. You can either serve it like this. I mean, look at this gorgeous springiness and thickness. But with everything else going on, this might be a hefty portion. I like to keep these large squares for sandwiches the next day. So if you're only cooking for 4 people, maybe save half of it for sandwiches and then serve the other half at the dinner. And then to do that, what I would do is take these squares and cut them into little triangles. So you can just kind of go halfway like that. The little shallots do fall off, so you have to be careful. Just kind of plop them back on there. There we go. See, and I think that's a really lovely serving to just do little corners because it's so thick. So if you didn't want to make a full apple pie this year, if it's just the 4 of you, maybe you'd consider making some apple crepes. You still get the same familiar flavors of the cinnamon apples, the ice cream, and then of course that sort of starchy goodness of the crepes. But I think they're way easier to make. You can make them all ahead of time. And it makes a holiday like the quarantine Thanksgiving just feel a little extra special and fancy. So we're gonna start with 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of white sugar, and a little pinch of salt. Then we are gonna whisk this up. Now, I've made crepes before on this channel, and in fact, if you want a larger quantity, if you were serving 8 or more, I'll link to that below and you can look at that recipe. This recipe is scaled down for 6. Then we're gonna add 1 3/4 cup of milk. You can use whole milk, you can use 2% milk, either one will work. So you really wanna get this part going first because this is what's going to create a crepe batter that doesn't have a lot of lumps in it. And then we can add 1 egg. There it goes. Have any of you made my crepe recipe before? I'm curious, you can put it in the comments or the chat. It's a recipe that I typically get a lot of new people to my channel, so it's sometimes the first way that people discover my channel, either that or the French macaron video. It's usually one or the other, or the banana bread. So let me know, how did you discover my channel? I'd be curious to know what video brought you here. And then we're also going to add 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Okay, so you probably have all these ingredients, right? Easy peasy, that's all we have to do. It's all done. Okay, before we start making the crepes, there's one thing I want to show you which will help you package them up once we're done. So I have just a plain plate here. On the plate, I'm gonna put a piece of aluminum foil down. On top of that, I'm gonna put another piece going just the opposite way. This way we'll be able to package them up and they won't dry out. And then to make it easy to microwave when we want to heat them up later, we're going to just put a piece of paper towel here. And then we're going to stack our crepes all going the same direction on the paper towel. If you stack them in alternating directions, they'll stick to each other. So stacking them going the same way helps to prevent that. Okay, so tip number 1 is to use a nonstick pan. So I have a 10-inch pan here. We are gonna be using a ladle of batter for each crepe, and 1 ladle full fits perfectly for 1 crepe. So if you have a pan that's too big, your crepe will be too thin. As it's heating up, you wanna grease it with a little bit of oil and a paper towel. So I use grapeseed oil, but you could also use vegetable oil. And make sure you grease not only the bottom, but the sides as well. And then the other thing you want to have ready is some sort of thin spatula. I think these work best for just kind of getting under the crepe. If you didn't have a spatula, you could also use a butter knife as well. Okay, I think our pan is looking pretty good. So I am going to take a ladle of batter and just put it in the center. And then you want to work pretty quickly, so you don't want to let it sit here too long. You want to just take it and give it a good swirl. And if you feel like you're coming up a little bit short, oopsie, you can just give it a little bit more batter and just keep swirling. That's the secret to keep swirling. And you don't actually want to use too much batter because you want to make sure you have enough for your 6 crepes, if 6 is the number you're trying to get to. If you're only wanting 4, then I've given you 1 to mess up on and 1 to taste. Okay, then what will happen is the crepe will start to set. And as soon as you start to see it get golden brown like this around the edges, that's when you want to go in with your spatula and just loosen it a little bit. This is why I really like the spatula. Sometimes the knife is not thin enough to get in under there, but it certainly will work if that's all you have. Okay, then I go in with my hands and I just give it a flip, just like that. And you can see how beautiful and golden brown it is. Easy, right? Okay, and then you only need like not even a minute on the other side because it cooks pretty quickly. And then don't even worry about trying to take it out. The easiest thing to do, I'm just gonna turn off my flame here so I don't catch this on fire, is take our little storage situation here, but you just slide it off. See, just like that. And then we're gonna stack them all going this way. All right, so I'm gonna whip up the batch. Okay, we have our 6 crepes here, and then we are going to just put the paper towel on top like that. Then you can put 1 sheet of the foil like that, and 1 sheet of the foil like this. There. And then you are all set. So you're just gonna pop this in the fridge until it's time to serve. And I'm gonna show you what to do with that in a minute. So now for the salted caramel sauce. It's so easy. Wait till you see how easy this is. Okay, so we are gonna start with 2/3 cup of just plain white sugar. And you're gonna put that in a pot. You want to have a pot that's similar to this in that it has a nice high profile. You'll see why in a minute. And that it's not too skinny because the larger surface you have to melt the sugar, the quicker this will go. And then this is the patient part. You don't want to touch it. So resist the temptation to get in there with a spoon or a fork and start to stir it around. Sugar melts best into caramel by not touching it and doing more of the swirling, lifting technique. It's just one of the tricky things about making caramel. I don't know, caramel, which one? I go back and forth. It's like tomato, pecan. Tell me in the chat, tell me in the comments, which one do you say? Caramel? It's probably my American accent, caramel. We seem to abbreviate everything. Then you want to swish it around. If at any time it starts to smoke, like what it's kind of doing like this, then you want to turn the flame off because the residual heat from the hot caramel will melt the rest of the sugar. So don't worry about that. So you can kind of see how it's melting? If you have a little bit of sugar in the bottom at this stage, see how it's basically all melted. Then you can go in with, I like these little non-stick whisks because it just makes it easier for you to clean. And you can whisk it together. And see, now I've got this beautiful amber color caramel made just from the white sugar. So how easy is that? Okay, now we're gonna do the next step. The next step, and this is why we wanted our high profile pot, I'm going to add 2/3 cup of warmed heavy cream. So it just shouldn't be cold from the fridge because it's hitting this very hot liquid. It'll just be easier. But see how that will start to kind of foam up there? There, can you guys see what's happening? Then we're gonna add a tablespoon of butter. I would probably use unsalted butter and then maybe add a little bit more salt. Because we're gonna do that too. And this is what's gonna give the caramel that really great bite, the salted caramel. You wanna make sure, like I would say a good pinch is like that, almost 1/8 of a teaspoon. Taste it after you add that, but be careful because it's gonna be really hot. You wanna taste the salt because what makes this so delicious is that sort of salted caramel flavor. And that's all we have to do. Our sauce is ready to go. So you can totally do this the day before. We're gonna store it in this little Pyrex pitcher and then all we have to do is microwave it the day of. Okay, now for the apples. So the apples are actually something that I would do the day of, just before serving. And I find after Thanksgiving, people need a little bit of a break before they get to the dessert anyway. So it'll give you something to do while people are just sort of milling about at the table. So I have my pan on a medium-high flame. To that, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter. Then once the butter looks like this and it's nice and melted, then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of plain white sugar. And then I'm also gonna add 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay, then we are going to add our apples. So I have 1.5 cups of Gala apples. I like the Galas because they're really sweet. They're not too tart. Cover them with the sugar. I have them cut into like 1/4 inch slices. And then we're also going to add about a teaspoon or so of lemon juice, maybe 2 teaspoons. But one thing I do like to do just to help the apples cook a little bit better is add about a tablespoon or so of water. And I'll do a tablespoon of it and a half. You have to kind of eyeball it and see how much liquid you think you need. I'd start with about a tablespoon and a half. Then once everything is coated, you can hit the whole thing with just a little bit of salt, just a pinch, just to heighten all the flavors. And then we are going to cover it and let this simmer for about 8 minutes, depending on how tender you like your apples. Because most of this dessert is really soft, we've got the soft crepe, we've got the caramel and the ice cream. I like to have them be not too soft, just to have a little bit of texture. So I keep them a little bit firm, but you do what's right for you. Okay, so these apples are looking fantastic. You can see they're nice and caramelized and gooey and delicious. So another tip is after they steam for about 5 or 8 minutes, turn the flame off and keep the lid on. And then they will just get nice and brown and syrupy like this, just from the heat that's left over from the pan. That's how I got this beautiful color. Then when it comes time to serve, you can take your little paper towel crepe packet and put it in the microwave for about a minute 30. You just want them to be warm. They don't need to be like smoking hot. And then I also heated up the caramel sauce, so I did about a minute in the microwave as well. Then let me show you how to serve these like they do in France. So take your crepe underside facing out and then just fold it in half and then fold it in half again. And that's all there is to it. And I think it looks really pretty if you can get yourself like an oblong platter, and we're going to just display them all up the platter. Then we can dust them ever so gently with a little bit of powdered sugar, just because it is the holidays after all, and it does make it look pretty. And then we're gonna add our apples. And then of course, let's not forget, our delicious salted caramel sauce over the top. And if you want to put a little drizzle on the plate, I think that's also pretty too. And there you have it, and you can bring this beautiful platter to the table and serve each of your guests a crepe with some apples and of course a big scoop of vanilla ice cream. And don't forget the extra caramel sauce, which of course you have to drizzle right over the top. All right, so if you are up for making my full Thanksgiving menu, here's your game plan. All right, up to 3 days before, do all your shopping. The grocery store is the worst place to be the day before Thanksgiving. The nice thing about this menu is everything can be purchased at least 3 days ahead. The vegetables are hearty, so are the herbs, so nothing is going to spoil, and you will thank yourself the day before Thanksgiving when all you have to do is prep a few things. Then 2 days before Thanksgiving, you can get the caramel sauce for the apple crepes done. Pour it in a Pyrex pitcher, cover and refrigerate. That way, when it comes time to heat it up, you already have it in a heat-safe vessel, and all you have to do is microwave. You can also make the cranberry sauce ahead of time. This cranberry sauce is even better if you make it 2 days ahead, because the flavors of the orange peel, the cloves, and the ginger just will become all the more pronounced. You can also prep the appetizer, so make your cheddar cheese coin dough ahead of time, wrap it in the parchment paper and pop it in the fridge, and then all you have to do the day of is just slice and bake. You can also cook off the shallots and get them all nice and caramelized, transfer to a bowl, cover and refrigerate, and then that way all you have to do is actually make the dough for the focaccia and your shallots are all ready to go. You can also prep the stuffing cups, because remember, we have to toast those bread cubes. You can put them in the muffin tin, cover and refrigerate, and they will be all ready to go. Okay, the morning of, countdown to kickoff. Here's what you're gonna do. Make your focaccia bread in the morning. That way it'll give you enough time to let the dough rise twice, pop on those shallots and bake it off. Once it's fully baked, allow it to cool just at room temperature and keep it in the tin. That way, when it comes time to reheat it, you're all ready to go and you can just pop it in the oven. 3 hours before you plan to serve dinner, you can slice your cheese coins and bake them in the oven. Because remember, our oven's gonna be pretty occupied soon and we wanna get this part done ahead of time. Then allow them to cool on your cooktop, and once they are completely cool, you can transfer them to a container and just let them sit out on the countertop. Okay, then 2 hours before you plan to serve dinner, this is go time. So you wanna get yourself into the kitchen, grab a buddy if you need it, and get your turkey prepped with the garlic butter, toss those carrots in the maple glaze, put them on the sheet pan, and prep your Hasselback potatoes. And then go ahead and get that dinner in the oven, and then now you can sit down and relax knowing that your Thanksgiving dinner is roasting away. And this will give you time to enjoy your cheese coins. Okay, then 40 minutes before your turkey is ready to be done, go ahead and pop in those stuffing cups. And then once your turkey reaches 162 degrees Fahrenheit, go ahead and take it out. You can transfer it to a carving board and then cover it with foil. It needs to rest at least 15 minutes, during which it will come up to the appropriate temperature, which is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. But then go ahead and take those vegetables and pop them back in the oven with the stuffing cups. And you want to reduce the oven, I think, to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, which will just keep everything warm. And this is the perfect time to pop in that focaccia bread. Then you can carve your turkey and assemble your plates, and at the same time enlist a helper to slice the focaccia bread and pop it into a bread basket. Then, after dinner, when everybody's sort of milling around the table, ask somebody to help you clear the plates so that you can get started on the applesauce for the crepes. Once the applesauce is good to go, then go ahead and reheat the caramel sauce in the microwave, and you can reheat your crepes. Then all you have to do is fold the crepes, top with that delicious applesauce, and don't forget to bring the caramel sauce to the table as well, because it is so delicious drizzled over the vanilla ice cream. All right, you guys, I hope you give this menu a try and that it proves to be easy, delicious, and won't break the bank. All right, you guys, I'll see you back here next week. Until then, bye.